Dan Rothenberg and Joe Klosik, two guys trying to figure it out. Not the right wing, not the brosphere. Left of center with humor and empathy. Welcome to the
Splain, everyone. Click,
hello,
subscribe, and like us.
Subscribe, like us. Come on. We did a very suburban couple Saturday night. We watched a Netflix documentary on the disappearance of a white woman. We
Which white woman?
I can't even remember her name. It doesn't really matter.
Okay, that's all you took from it. A white woman disappeared.
Yeah, pretty much. It was like the most white woman disappearance ever. She disappeared off of a cruise ship.
Yeah, I was gonna watch that. I was gonna watch that white woman.
Yeah.
So and so
Yeah.
is.
It's well done. It's interesting. It'll hold your attention. It just the whole way through, I just thought, instantly they all jumped to the worst case scenario. Well, she's been sex trafficked.
Yeah.
That's
and
gotta
no
be
spoiler. It's so and so is missing. That's the name of the documentary.
Yeah.
And
Amy.
Yes.
Amy blank is missing.
Amy, not the first Amy to go missing. If you notice, Amy's are popular in these documentaries.
Don't name your girl Amy, because there's a better chance that she's going to go missing.
That's right. Not to spoil it, but was there any resolution with the white?
That would literally be a spoiler. Dan,
yeah. Not to spoil it, but
let me just tell you
what happened.
There's no season 2, okay?
Okay.
I will tell you that. Yeah. There's no season 2. But it's very well done. It takes some twists and turns. They're very skilled at keeping you like, the cliffhanger that it's 3 episodes, but they definitely make you go down one path and then go down another path, and then there's people that are coming forward and admitting things. And at the end of the day, you really do have to sit there with it and go, well, what do we really know? What is most likely? And why are they not making documentaries about missing black women?
When you're young and running around and going out and whether you're going to clubs, going to comedy clubs, it's all right there for you. And it's very exciting when you and I, maybe this will segue into what we're going to talk about, something that I took for granted a little bit was being a part of the pulse of a city, being a part of the artistic center of San Francisco in the late 90s. And it's not that we were famous, but we were performing every night. And there's an electricity to that.
There definitely is. And I think you said it really, really well there. We might not have been famous. We were definitely rubbing shoulders with some famous people. We definitely were going up in some really good venues. We were definitely a part of, I don't know what, the zeitgeist, or I felt like, hey, I'm a mover and a shaker in San Francisco on the artistic scene, at least in stand-up, and it did feel cool to be a part of that and move through that scene, and there was excitement and vitality. Out here, I might strike up a conversation with the neighbor about gardening.
Yeah.
And that's okay too. I'm at this point in my life where I'm like, you know what? I do want to know how to take better care of my lemon tree.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong.
Begonias are coming in nice.
Nothing wrong with lemon trees. And there's nothing wrong with soil. Let me ask you something, because I'm out of it. I'm out of comedy for the most part. I'm not trying to be a dick. You're an old man of comedy. You're still in there, but you're like the Johnny Steels of when we were young. You're still going. What's that like? Does that feel vital?
It's an odd experience that has taken some getting used to, because young comics, you know what young comics will say to me most of the time? They'll just say, I don't know you. and I feel like I've no ego attached to that when they say that because I'm like, yeah, why would you? But the thing is, they'll
They
say,
just
yeah, I see you advertised at the Punchline all the
oh,
time,
but we haven't met though.
but I don't, yeah, but
Yeah.
I don't know you. And because I think part of that is like it's a much broader scene. There's more like when it was you and I, quality independent shows in decent venues were very rare.
Hmm.
There really was like Cobb's and the Punchline. There was some, you know, nice stuff here and there. Now you still have Cobb's and the Punchline, but you have a lot of independent, well produced shows at little theaters and
Hmm.
then you've got, of course, social media. And oftentimes, you and I, when we were coming up, right, we would hit one show and we would all hang out after the show because there was nothing else to do.
Yeah.
There was no other show to get to. Now, some nights, like a Wednesday or a Thursday, even, people can get to three
Hmm.
shows a
So it's more
night,
like New York
right?
used to be.
It's a little bit more
Multiple
like, yeah, it's a little
sets.
bit more like New York. You can so people are no one's sticking around and talking. So in some ways the scene is broader, but it's more
Do you do these
fractured.
independent
Uh,
shows?
some of them, but a lot of the times, I'll be honest with you, it just feels like I've put in way too much time. For one, they always want me to close,
Hmm.
and I'm okay. I get that that's a respectful choice, but now I have to wait
Hmm.
an hour and a half for all you kids to fuck up the audience,
Uh-huh.
and
So
then
you're now a
and then I
closer.
gotta,
You're where we always wanted to be.
yeah,
Um,
and now I hate it.
you hate okay, I would imagine because what you're doing, it's a slug to close.
It's
You
a
got to
slog,
pick up the
and
pieces of the show, do a
yeah,
long
you got to
time,
pick up the pieces of the yeah, and you got to stitch
and
it
there's a lot
together
of
and
value
make
to
the
that, which you're probably not going to
there
get
is
paid for.
there is but that's the thing, right? So the other thing is now like closing a lot of these little shows, it's $50, $100, and then I'm just like, well, now I got to go home, try to get to sleep, then wake up and go to the day job. Sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's worth it.
Hmm.
A lot of times
Yeah.
though, like lately I'm saying no a
Everything,
lot because I'm
yeah.
just like,
Everything changes with
you know
right, because you have a day job. That
yeah,
changes everything. When you
it
have
fucking
to be
sucks.
a
It
normal person. That's
You have to be a normal person, but you can't pay your money or you
yeah,
can't pay your rent on a string of $50
right.
gigs. No, and everyone has a day job, but when you're younger, that's easier to like, oh yeah, I can just show up and be
Yeah,
extremely
show up and be a
tired.
shitty employee as I should be. I'm a
Yeah,
comedian.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But older
Yeah.
now, like, no, I can't do that, but it is funny, like, the younger comics will come up to me like, man, that was a really good set. And they're surprised because
Hmm.
that's the other thing. There aren't a lot of veterans around on the scene because everyone will spend five,
Hmm.
6 years getting good enough and then they move to LA or New
It
York.
used to be that way. I
Um,
mean,
it used to be that way, but I feel like there's so many people moving. I don't know how this. I don't know how LA or New York absorbs that many people, and then people are trying to build social media followings, which is commendable because you want to. You want to get on better shows, and then I'd say like 20% of my gigs, they're well paying. I'm making, somewhere around $500 for a gig,
hmm,
and
that's
yeah,
worth it.
if I had more of those, yeah, it's
Yeah.
worth it. But there's just not quite enough, to support like being a full-time
Yeah.
comedian. Um, which, which I have done in the past, and it's a hard life if you don't have
Yeah.
that
It
measure of
just
notoriety.
right.
Whew.
Um
But anyway, speaking of
yes.
notoriety, here's something that we've talked about this guy a little bit. His birthday was July
Hmm.
21st, and I saw a couple other people um, talking about him, commemorating him. So Robin
Robin
Williams,
Williams.
this was a guy that we had the opportunity to actually work with
Hmm.
sometimes, actually talk to sometimes, and it was also fascinating to learn how little we really knew about this guy, and
Hmm.
how that is such a comics personality. Like he's making people laugh. He brings joy into any room he walked into, but he was keeping everything at arm's length. And when faced with his own serious problems, he didn't reach out, in a way that might have helped him, and took his life,
Mm-hmm.
which is incredibly sad. But rather than dwell on that, I know we both had some really cool experiences with Robin Williams, and he's always like people will always ask like, "Did you ever meet Robin Williams?" I'm like, actually, yeah,
And can I
because
throw in real quick?
yeah,
I've met
yeah,
him twice, um, which is not unusual being a Bay Area comedian. So he would pop in the early 2000s. He was going through a phase. He was just popping into local rooms. He had a
yeah.
reputation for closing the Cubs showcase or the punchline from time to time. And one kind of cool thing about being a comedian. Well, there's a flip side to it. On the one hand, as comedians, and I'm sure this remains the same, even though I haven't been in it in a while. On the one hand, it's a very exclusive club and very competitive, and it takes years to get noticed, to feel comfortable, to get the gatekeepers to pay attention to you, and much less put you on. Um, at the same time, because we have no union and no organization, and we're basically just a bunch of schmucks hanging out, hoping to get pointed to,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
oddly accessible. If you're around, you're around. Um,
Eventually, you get on stage.
yeah,
Eventually,
there's no
you get
rhyme or
noticed.
reason to
Yeah.
it. If you go, if you want to go to the punchline, and if you want to be a comedian, you go to the punchline on Sunday in San Francisco, stand in the back. In that moment, you're as much of a comedian as anyone. You're, do
That's
you know what I
true.
mean? It's all so. Yeah, you're
That's
going
true.
to. So on the one hand, it's a grind. On the other hand, we worked with everyone. You
Yeah, we
name
really did.
the now
Yeah.
famous comedian, and we got to work with them and we got to hang out with them because it's a very accessible environment because it's so disorganized. Anyone can do it. So like if you want to be an actor, you got to get in the union, and you go to a movie set, it's closed. If you go to a showcase in a big city, you know, it's open.
Yeah.
Anybody can get
Yeah.
chosen,
It,
and comics are just
I
hanging
mean,
out. So yes, we got to meet Robin
eventually,
Williams
yeah.
and a lot of people.
Yeah. I remember the first time I met him,
Mm-hmm.
right? I was hosting a Cobb showcase, and Tom, you remember Tom who,
Yeah,
owned Cobb's, right? That's his own podcast
yeah.
right there. He comes up to me and he goes, "Hey Joe, at the end of the show, just introduce Robin Williams." And he walks away,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, I thought he was fucking
Yeah,
with me, because I'm like, yeah, Robin Williams is
yeah.
here. And I run to the bathroom. You had to go through the bar and around and back. And sure enough, I see Robin Williams standing at the front podium, talking to Terry Sawyer, who also used to work there, and a couple other comics. And I'm like, no
Yeah.
way. So I go up to him and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna bring you on stage. Anything I should
Right. Which
say?
is funny.
you
So you
know
have to understand that's what we do in a showcase. Means there's 10 to 20 comedians on performing for free. So any big city has showcases. Usually on off nights. Now, on weekend nights and the sort of the prime spots, it's usually a three-person show. If you've been to a comedy club, Thursday through Saturday is typically a big headliner, a feature in the middle, and an MC. Showcase nights, everybody's doing time, trying to get on, and that's when any big stars can drop by.
Yeah, I mean, but he was like the biggest, and
Yeah, Robin
he
Williams.
was always he was so humble. You know, he was always humble. But when I asked him, like, is there
So you always
anything you want me
say,
to
"What do you want
say?
me to say?" You go up to
Yeah,
the comedian before they go on. What are you
yeah.
going to say? And then you got Robin Williams. Like,
Yeah, and 98% of the time, because there's some ego there, they want you to say like, "Oh, I'm going to be seen in this upcoming thing," or I've got a special, or I'm headlining," and he just sort of smiles at me. It's just like, "Nah, you just send
whatever.
me on
Goodwill
up."
Hunting.
Yeah, yeah,
Good
yeah,
Morning
because it's
Vietnam.
like, look,
Yeah,
yeah,
whatever.
and he didn't have to say it, and there was no
Yeah,
trace of ego in it. But yeah, the message was like, just say Robin Williams because that's
yeah,
enough, right? And I remember going up there, and I've never seen anything like this from any other act ever before, right? So I can't remember who was on stage at the time, the last comic, but he was bombing and he was doing these jokes about pussy and they weren't going well. And Robin was in back, just sort of like giggling to
when you're
himself,
doing
right?
the pussy
when you're
jokes
you're
aren't
talking
going well.
when you're doing when you're doing and
Yeah,
yeah, so I go on
the,
stage, right, and I'm like, hey, ladies and gentlemen, listen, we don't want you to leave yet because we have a really really special
yeah,
treat. Please welcome to the stage Robin
hmm,
Williams. Nobody believes me, right? But as he starts to walk
hmm,
up to the stage, as people turn and notice, they lose their
yeah.
fucking minds. And he gets a standing
Same,
ovation for
same.
just being
I had the
introduced.
same.
At that level of
Yeah,
love and fame, like, no, I've never ever introduced anybody ever before that had that level,
yes.
a standing ovation for
Just
just
showing
showing
up.
up. And he
Hmm,
goes on
hmm.
stage, and the first thing he says is like, "Oh, I don't know. The pussy jokes aren't going well tonight. I'm not sure how this is gonna go." And they're just like, "Oh my
uh,
god!" Just losing it. And the level of energy in that room went from 0 to 1,000.
yeah,
In a heartbeat. And then he just so was, they loved him, they just loved him, and he was just talking to them, making these easy jokes, with the crowd. But because it's Robin Williams, they're just, it's a different level of fame.
hmm,
And he was up there for a good 20
hmm,
minutes, and then left, and people again were just like, how often does that
yeah.
happen? And I'm like, oh yeah, he comes by all the time.
I had the same exact experience, and to date, it was one of the coolest moments for me because I also happened to be hosting, so I got to bring him up, and he had the beard, so he
Mm,
was kind of a
mm,
hairball, um, and um, Tom said to me, and Tom in moments like that, Tom would be glowing because he should be because he was bringing this he got to bring this gift. I mean, Robin Williams was
yeah,
showing up because it was Cobb's, and he played Cobb's when Robin was a
yeah,
younger
yeah.
comedian, and he knew Tom, and so Tom. I remember Tom came up to me and said, he said, play it this way, just sort of say, hey guys, we got one more comedian for you. Can you just hang out for a little longer? And he's been nominated for a couple of Oscars, and he just won one. And I did it that way, and I saw it was the same exact reaction. People started to light up, standing ovation, lost
Yeah,
their shit. And the cool thing is,
yeah.
Cobb's was Cobb's in the Cannery at the time in San Francisco. It was a tourist night. It was, and you
Hmm.
were making their vacation, just
That was
making
it. That was
their
all anybody was
night.
going to
It
think
was
about.
so
Yeah,
cool to be a part of that. And the exact same thing happened. And I haven't seen it before since. A standing O at the beginning.
just for being
Yeah,
introduced.
it
Yeah,
was
at
just
the
so
beginning, and
exciting.
then I'll tell you another night. So there was a period of time where he was getting ready to record a comedy special again, and so he was dropping into San Francisco venues
Hmm.
everywhere. And there was just like, do you remember? There was a place called the Mock
Yeah,
Cafe. Remember, that's like a
the
whole other
little
So
Yeah, little venue.
like 25
Yeah.
people could maybe be in there, right? And so he was dropping in there, and it put that place on the map.
Hmm.
He was going to the punchline, but he started to show up with a sort of regularity where I think a few of us, we got to talk to him a little bit more. And the fact that he remembered our names just amazed
Hmm.
me. The fact that he remembered previous conversations amazed
Hmm.
me. And I remember telling him, like, oh, I feel like this is celebrity stalking, but in reverse. Like, you know too much about me now. And he was like laughing about that and then riffing a little bit about that. Oh yes, gee,
Oh, no.
it told in
Yeah.
Robin
Yeah.
form, like I'm showing up at your at your gym watching you. Like that's not how I would fold a
Uh-huh.
towel,
Uh-huh.
just but it's Robin
Yeah.
Williams and you're like, "Oh my god, this is surreal," right? And I remember again hosting another Cobb showcase, and those could be a chore because it was 3
Yeah,
hours.
it was a long night. It was too
It was a
long.
long night. It was too long, and there could be about 12 to 15 comics. The first hour was a lot of newer comics, and sometimes, man, if they didn't do well, then by hour two starting, the crowd was just looking at you like, yeah, we don't believe anybody. And sometimes it would get better, but some nights,
Hmm.
man, it was a slog. You were just going up there trying to keep their attention. And this was one of those nights where the crowd never quite gelled. It was a small tourist crowd. There was maybe 60 people spread out in that room. And there was this mother and her two daughters who just couldn't keep quiet. It never rose to the level of they're being mean or heckling, and we didn't want to kick them out, because we got it,
Hmm.
like this is your vacation and maybe you're drinking a little bit too much. But it started to get really really
Hmm.
annoying, right? And they had a camera because this was before cell phones, right?
Yeah.
Like the cell phones were not even, they were just starting to come out. And so I know I have to bring up Robin Williams, but before I do, I'm like, hey, do you want to listen? We're almost at the end. You want to get a couple of pictures of you and your daughters on stage, and she's like, would you let us do that? And like, crowd, would
Hmm.
let us do that? And they're like, yeah, whatever. So they start taking all the pictures. They get a picture of me. They get a picture of them. I get a picture of them at their table. And I'm like, finally, the mom's like, oh, that's it. I'm out of film now. You're
Hmm.
sure you're out of film? I'm out of film. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, please, big round of applause for
Hmm.
Robin Williams. And they were so pissed. But Robin was like, oh, that was beautiful. He really screwed you on that. Now you can't
Oh,
say you got a
oh,
picture of Mork.
oh,
Yeah,
man. Oh, so they couldn't take a picture of
yeah.
him.
They
That's
couldn't take a
hilarious.
picture of him because I got him to use
Oh,
up
that's
all of their
hilarious.
shots, and they were
Also, a
livid.
time
Uh,
capsule of film.
it was, yeah, it was literally like, you got to
Oh, wow.
rewind it and everything. They had like a disposable
Uh-huh.
camera they bought for way too much money on the wharf. Um, but yeah, and Robin thought that was hysterical. And yeah, there were moments like that, and there were other comics that there was. I think this was after you had left, but there was a place in Mill Valley called the Throckmorton Theater,
Yeah,
and yeah,
I know of that Mark Pitta's joint.
yeah. So it was Mark Pitta started hosting a show on
Hmm.
Tuesday, and beautiful old Victorian style theater. And Robin just began to show up
Hmm.
there, even regardless of the fact if he was preparing for something or not preparing for something. He was showing up there regularly. Mort Saul was living in Mill Valley, and Mort Saul was again like the father of social
Hmm.
commentary comedy. He started showing up there. We found out years later that Mort Saul had gone broke and Robin was paying for his apartment.
Really?
So, yeah. So, what would be fascinating though as a young comic is you'd go out there and they had this green room and you would see Mort
Uh-huh.
Saul, 1950s, 60s, father of social commentary comedy, sitting with Robin Williams, one of the biggest celebrities on the planet, just holding court in the green room. And then there'd be, four, five, six comedians. And it didn't matter how big the other comedian was, it's Robin Williams and Mort
Hmm.
Saul, and you're just watching them talk about things, movies. You were
Yeah.
enraptured if they were talking about their lunch, right?
Right.
But then you would also see the comedian uh, who couldn't not talk and try to dominate the conversation. And I remember one comedian was just continually talking over Robin, and Robin was very gracious. He was not,
Was this comedian
he wasn't
funny
gonna.
or?
This comedian's funny, and I don't want to say their name. He's a local guy,
Uh huh.
but at a certain point, I remember looking at the other younger comedians, myself included, and one of them actually said, "Hey, let Robin talk." And it's like one of the only times I've ever seen this comedian sort of put in his place and realize, like, dude, why are you fucking
Yeah.
talking? Robin Williams is having a conversation with Mort
Right.
Saul.
Shut
Shut
up.
up.
Let us take this in.
Yeah, yeah. Let us enjoy this. Um, and yeah, I mean that was an incredible thing to just like. I remember one time showing up there, and you would come in through a side door that went directly into the green room, and they would have pizzas out for you. It was really, it was a nice, setup as a comedian. You were being paid well. The audience was great. You had free pizza in the green room, and I was the first one there, and Robin Williams is just sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, do you want me to come back later? It's like, no, no, come on, come on in, come on in. And I'm like, you doing a set tonight? I'm like,
Yeah.
of course, he's
Right.
Robin
Right.
Williams. Of course they're gonna let him on
Yeah.
stage, right? And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, were you just sitting in here, Mr. Williams? He's like, call me
Yeah.
Robin, call me Robin. He's like, no, no, I'm waiting for my friend to come out of the bathroom because there's a little bathroom in there.
Right.
And then you hear a flush,
So
you hear some
basically,
water.
it would be.
Check this
Yeah.
out though. Who comes out of the bathroom? It's Father Guido
Uh huh.
Sarducci.
Yeah. He was a
So
Bay
again,
Area
it's like
guy.
holy shit,
Uh
right?
huh.
So you got Father Guido Sarducci and Robin Williams, and then Mort Saul comes in. So for like 5 minutes, it's Father Guido Sarducci, Mort Saul, Robin
Yeah. It's
Williams,
amazing.
and me,
And
and we're sitting
and
there
these
just
guys are. I mean,
yeah.
Father Guido Sarducci is not a huge legend, but he was in there. He was on
He
those
might have met live.
SNLs
Yeah.
in the
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
It's
Back in
amazing.
the day. Yeah, yeah.
Amazing.
He was big.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean for a while there, that was
They
such an
have
incredible
such
place to
in
be
right.
because
They have such information and experience.
yeah,
It'd be
yeah.
like, yeah, Andy be sitting there with Andy Kaufman or something. No, that's really,
He might have shown up.
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, is he dead? Is he not dead? Is he in
Hmm.
character? But there were so many times like that, and then I know, like, you remember Roddy
Yeah,
Castro, right? Roddy
of
Castro,
course.
local comedian. He was working in Marin at a bike shop, and Robin Williams loved bikes, so he started going over there all the time. And Roddy was talking to him about bikes and hooking him up, and he was like a local celebrity. Roddy became a local celebrity in the bike shop because Robin would come in and ask
Uh
for
huh.
him, and if Roddy wasn't there, he was like, okay, I'll come
Oh,
back,
that's, oh, I didn't know that.
and then yeah, 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 yeah. That was like a big badge of honor
Oh,
for
that's
him,
really
and
cool.
they would just be like, "Hey, Robin Williams came in
Looking for
and
you.
wanted to talk to you about the new 23 speed." And yeah, oh yeah, 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 we go
Yeah.
biking. Um, yeah, I mean, the thing I don't think people understand was how gracious and humble he
Yes.
was.
And it was
And
almost like he just wanted to be normal around you. Just,
he wanted to be a comic among
yeah.
comics. He just wanted to riff. He just wanted, and I never, I feel like he got that with some
Yeah.
comics, but I think a lot of us were a little too starstruck, to really just like riff with him and
Yeah.
talk to him like a normal comic. Because you wanted to ask him questions like, what was it like to do that scene with Robert De
Uh
Niro
huh.
in Awakenings? How did you get the script for, uh, uh, Goodwill
Hmm.
Hunting? What was it like to play Mork and think like maybe this is going to be it and this will define my whole career? I mean, um, and then there was the other side to Robin that got discussed at least in comedy circles about him appropriating people's bits.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes, those were real conversations people were having. And I would add in, just for the sake of disclosure, there was yeah, there was a strain of slight disrespect toward him
Yeah,
for
yeah, and because it was like the cool guy thing to be like, oh, I don't like Robin.
yeah, right. It was kind of there was an attitude toward Robin Williams. Now, of course, once you were in the presence of him, that all went away, and you were
Yeah,
starstruck and you worshipped him, and um, of course, he was a comedic force. But there was a sentiment of this toward Robin Williams. If I remember, it was sort of like your riffing is you're not just coming up with that. It's recycled stuff. It's your own stuff and it's other people's stuff all mixed into this blender that's coming out,
yeah,
and it's not as spontaneous as it looks. Which, of course, who
true.
cares?
Yeah, to the audience didn't know any of it, didn't care about any of that. But I will say, like, do you remember Rick
Yeah,
Overton?
yeah,
Okay, so back in the day, like Rick Overton and Robin Williams, they would do some improv
hmm
together, and what also started to happen, and Robin freely talked about this. We're
yeah,
not telling tales out of school or saying anything bad about him that he did not admit to and talk about himself. Um, so when Robin did like that comeback
hmm
special, there was some bits that were Rick
yeah,
Overton's. And what would sometimes happen was when Overton was headlining Cobb's, Robin would come by
right.
and then they would close the show by improving together,
And I
right?
think I was
So in
there
this,
for that.
you
I
know what I'm going to talk about? So
Yeah,
yeah, so there was a particular night where Overton's on stage, and Overton is actually saying, "You may have seen this bit done by another comedian, but this is how it's actually done." Like that's he's bitter and upset about
yeah.
it, but he's not mentioning Robin. Robin shows up, and they improv some stuff together, and it's funny, but you notice there's a strain, and then afterwards, Robin and Rick sit down on top of the Coca Cola dispenser, or
Yeah,
it's that
the green
tiny
room at
pass
the
bar.
old club was, yeah, it was
There was no
right. It
green
was a
room. It's
stack of
basically like you. It
case
was
of
like a
beer.
stack of soda and case of beer. So they both sit down there, and everybody sort of disappears to give them space. But we're all listening in around the corner, and Rick Overton is saying to him like, "Hey, you did you know some bits of mine
Uh
again,
huh.
and now I can't do those without people saying you're stealing from Robin Williams." And he tells Robin,
hmm
"Don't write me another check. Do something for
hmm
me. Help me get into something. Help me get into a show or a movie, or introduce me." And it was such a glimpse behind the curtain, such a glimpse, because I guess the story was, and this is backed up by other local SF comedians, Robin had been writing checks to some comedians because he just took so many of their bits, they couldn't even perform them anymore without everyone thinking, "Why are you stealing everything from Robin
Mm-hmm.
Williams?" And there was a couple of like local comics that were just like, "Yeah, he wrote me a couple of checks that ended up being $100,000, but I couldn't perform anymore."
hmm
So there was those stories, and in this case, Overton was like, "Look, introduce me to a producer, get me a movie part, do
I
something."
Right. I thought he said. And by the way, I know this story, and I'm not. Here's how things evolve over time in the my brain. Whenever I tell this story, I was there and I heard it, but I'm not sure if I was there.
You were there. I think you were there that night. I remember you being there, and I remember all of
Yeah,
us
I'm not even
like
sure if
leaning
I
around the
was there. I
corner.
know I have the.
I remember Tom trying to like, like, hey, give him some space, give him some space,
I can't,
and the
right.
bartenders were just kind of like, "I gotta clean up," and now, you
hmm
know,
I remember the way I tell the story is pretty much the same. I cannot remember if I, but he said something like, "I have some scripts. Help get them
yeah, okay,
developed." that's my memory, and I'm not sure.
That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, look, you're right. My memory is fading as well, and I might not have all of the pieces correct anymore, but I do remember Robin and him sitting down, and I do remember him saying specifically, "Don't write me another check."
I didn't know it was. I thought Robin said, "I'll cut you a check," and he said, "No." I didn't know it was another check, that this had happened before.
Yeah, yeah. I'm blanking on there was another Bay Area comedian who basically like he couldn't perform anymore
Really?
because everyone, yeah, yeah, yeah. You, oh God, what's his name? Older I mean older now, but his style was very much like Robin, and really a lot of people back in the day coming up said, well, Robin really took that style from this comedian. I'm totally blanking on his name, which is really a shame, because he's somebody we could
Here's
talk
another,
about. Uh,
just as a, not to change the subject. I found this happen to me in LA a lot. This is so sad.
what
I'll
part?
say this. This happened 3 to 5 times, and it's one of the interesting things about living in LA, because you're just amongst celebrities. So everything you do is going to be infused with celebrities. If you're hanging out with
Yeah.
people who are down and out, so I go to AA. I don't care. I go to, actually, it's I go to that. I go to an anonymous program that will remain. So if you're hanging out with people in LA that
Yeah.
struggle,
Yeah.
it's going to be famous people that struggle. If you're hanging out
Yeah.
at those comedy
Yeah.
clubs, it's all. But I remember there was this, like there was this guy. I'm in LA, and the actors that have fallen, always they show up at meetings and they always have paint speckles on them because they're painting now. Do you know what I mean? They're painting a house now. That's the job
Yeah.
of the sort of the failed comedian, is now you're painting in some capacity. So I remember this guy. Um, he's sharing in a meeting like anyone shares, and he says, "Yeah, I got this gig. I'm going to do a Robin Williams impression. So I'm going to make $300, and this is this and that, and things aren't going so great." I'm like, a Robin Williams impression. And then after I said, "Oh, you do a Robin Williams," and then he kind of did it, and it was really good. And I was like, I think I said to him, "Oh my God, you're that guy." He was huge in the early '80s.
Yeah.
I think his
Wow.
first, maybe I won't say his name because technically I met him in a meeting, but I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
wow, you're that guy. I was 10 watching you on the Tonight Show, and now you're covered in paint, and we're both alcoholics. Crazy.
Yeah.
What?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, there's a whole we I don't know how we would talk about it in a way that would be meaningful for other people to hear, but yeah, going to meetings in LA was its own
It's
surreal adventure for
surreal.
me
Yeah,
because I would meet I remember hearing like walking into a meeting and like, man, I know that voice. Where do I
I
know
know.
that
It's a
voice from?
trip.
And then like turning the corner to walk into the room and there's like, oh, you were the bad guy in every 80s movie I grew up with. And now you're sitting here eloquently and passionately
Right.
talking
You're
about the
that guy.
pain.
That's the fun
You're
thing about
that, yeah,
LA. LA.
yeah,
That guy. You're that dude.
that guy. Yeah,
Weren't you
yeah.
Sheriff Lobo's fucking deputy? It's everywhere.
There's there's so much of that, and that was so
Yeah.
surreal at times. But it was also, I will tell you,
Yeah.
as an
Get to
aside
recover
too, it
with a
was
sweat hug.
humbling.
Really?
You,
I did. It's kind of fun. It's kind of interesting.
I remember another time, like turning the corner and seeing a comedian who, in my estimation, had it all.
Hmm.
Like wow, you go on tour, you are on TV regularly, but he sat in the chair with his head down, crying, and I just remember that was a such a wake up call. Like wow, you believe you're going to be happy if you have everything that guy has. That guy has it all, and
Mm-hmm.
he's not
Mm-hmm.
happy.
Yeah. No, it's true.
On that
On that
positive
positive note,
note, I think we can wrap it up there. But yeah, it was, Robin was one of the experiences that we got to have
yes,
as comedians
was
in San
meeting and
Francisco.
hanging
There's
out with
more
Robin
stories and
Williams,
yeah,
and
more adventure, but that was a really cool time.
yes, yeah, and I have to say, in some ways, I haven't been able to top that, and that's okay because that's how special, yeah, following your dreams are. So, parents, let your kids follow your dreams. It's worth it.
There you go. That's a nice
Yeah,
bow to put on
yeah.
it.
It was I.
Um,
That was I stood there, brought up Robin Williams, shook his hand, watched the crowd go nuts, because I got into this art that was all my own. I made, you know what I mean. It's we made